Alright guys, as I said before, I'm going to go back and fix a mistake on here. I'm going to go through these quicker than I usually would. So if at any time you kind of get the hang of this, I strongly encourage you to pause, try a problem on your own, and then check to see if you get it right. This next one here, there's a little trick involved in this one here. Not a trick, but something unusual that happens here. So like I said before, isolate the radical by moving the 7 to the other side. That's usually the first step. So you get something like this. You get -5 on the right side because you've subtracted on both sides. And then, of course, we want to try to get rid of the radical over here. Now, there's a good chance some of you are going, wait a minute, there's something wrong with that. I just took the square root of something, who knows what it is, took the square root of something and got -5. You might realize there's something wrong with that right now. I'm going to keep going as if I'm not that smart and square both sides. So the radical symbol squared and cancels out. -5 times -5 is positive 25. That's an easy equation to solve. You divide by 5 and you get b is equal to 5. An important thing to do on a problem like this is to plug the 5 back in and check it. So you might realize that this doesn't quite work when you plug it in. 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So this would just simplify down to 5. 5 plus 7 is not 2. And the reason is something called extraneous roots or extra solutions come up. Whenever you square something, you change the value of it because you make sure it has to be positive. So with this step from here to here, it's okay to do, but sometimes it gets you an answer that's not necessarily valid. So in this particular problem, we'd call this thing no solution. The other reason there's no solution, so one reason is because when you plug it in, it doesn't work. The other reason is you can't take the square root of something and get a negative number. This is why I said in the beginning some people might have been, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't. As soon as you get to this step, you know there's not going to be a solution because you can't take the square root of something and get a negative number. If you didn't get that, rewind that. Let me say that about 10 more times to you. You can't take the square root of something and get a negative. And of course, you guys know you can't take the square root of a negative. That's not this situation. We took a square root and we got a negative, which doesn't make any sense. All right, next one over here. Of course, this one I've been saying the last couple. I said isolate the radical symbol. Well, sometimes you have two radical symbols, and you can't isolate it. So when you have two of them, get them on different sides and square both sides. So here they are on different sides. I'm going to square this side, and I'm going to square this side. So 2 squared is 4, and h minus 2 squared, sorry, the square root of h minus 2 squared is just h minus 2. And the same thing on this side, the radical symbol basically cancels out because I've just squared both sides. And again, the 4 came from the number on the outside here. I've got to distribute that now. That's the most important step is that first step. Everything else is stuff you've done before. So distribute, you get 4h minus 8 equals 6 minus 3h. Get all the h's onto the same side, maybe move them over here, move the 8 over here, and you get 7h is equal to 14. Divide and you get h equals 2. If you were to plug it back in, you get something kind of interesting. 2 minus 2 is 0. What's the square root of 0? Well, that's 0. And 0 times 2 is 0. So on this side we got 0. We better get the same thing over here. Plug in 2. 2 minus 3 is, sorry, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. So you do get the square root of 0 on both sides. So it is a valid solution on there. These are two. I expect you can probably do these on your own. Hopefully, we're getting to that point. A good time to pause if you think you know what you're doing. Try to solve them. If you're scared of the fraction, then listen up. I would start by clearing the fraction. Multiply both sides by 4. So you get 48 on this side. And you've now gotten rid of the denominator. You have just one simple equation. I would divide both sides by 3 in this case. You could square on both sides right now and get 9 times x minus 4. I like to divide both sides by 3 if it goes in evenly. So 48 divided by 3 is 16. And then, one step and you're done. Add 4 to both sides, you get 20. Oh, sorry. I lied to you. We're not done right there. I forgot the radical's still on there. Tricked by my own animation. So my radical is still here. To get rid of my radical, I square both sides. Now it's gone. 16 squared is 256. And this is what happens when you rush. You say things that don't make sense. X is equal to 260. If you were to plug that back in, 260 minus 4 is 256. Square root of 256 is 16. And 3/4 of 16 is 12, so it actually works. The one on the right is another situation where we have two radicals. And again, I'm trying to talk fast because I'm trying to get out of here. Good time to pause it, try to do this on your own, or rewind if I'm saying something too fast. If you have two radicals, you typically want to move one of the radicals to the other side and then square both sides of the equation. So I'm just going to add this whole radical to the other side and move it over. And then I'm going to square both sides. So this one just becomes 8 minus x. This is x plus 1 times 9, because I have to square that entire quantity. Distribute. You get 9x plus 9. Subtract 8. I don't know, subtract and add on both sides, whatever you want to do it. You do get, let's see, you add, you get 10. Subtract, you get negative 1. You do get a fraction for this thing, which if you get a fraction, that's kind of a pain to have to go and check that. Negative 1/10 in here is a really big pain to check it. This is one where I would use a calculator to check it and work at decimals. I mean, it's only, you know, negative 0.1, which isn't that bad to plug in and check, but it would be messy if you try to do it by hand. All right, on the back, you know, we're at a point hoping you can get the hang of this and do this on your own. If you can't, let's get it. Isolate the radical by multiplying both sides by 4. Clear the fraction first, in other words. So you'd get 2m minus 10, the square root of 2m minus 10 is equal to 8. And then you're probably going to square both sides. 8 becomes 64. The radicand just becomes a linear expression. Add 10 to both sides and divide by 2 and you're done. I don't know why it says that again. Oh, I don't know why. That's crazy. So don't write this twice on your paper unless you really like being redundant on here. I think you get m equals 37. That I think I'm pretty sure about. If you were to plug it back in here and double it, you get 74. 74 minus 10 is 64. The square root of 64 on the top would be 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Yes, correct. All right, I'm going to pause till we go to part 3. Part 3 is a little more complicated because you're going to see some quadratic stuff coming up here. It's going to be great here. I'm going to pause and go to that on the third part.